Hi, I'm André, and I'm going to talk for 7,000 characters. That's 6,860 more than a maximum tweet. I hope you can bear with me. I want to tell you a story which starts here. What do you think this is? This is a video store. Many of you may not know what this is, that's why I explain it. This is a place where you go, you have to choose yourself a movie, which is in a box. Then you go to a counter with human staff. You pay some money. You have to take this thing home, put it in a machine, which is called a DVD player. You also have a cassette player, if you know what this is, VHS. It's linked to a screen. Then you play this thing. Next day you have to take it back to the shop in person, and so that's how it works. And this shop opened in my street in Berlin Mitte, Hamburg Mitte, Berlin. Hello. So in Berlin, and this is sort of considered hipster land. You know, my street is 100 meters off Torstraße, which is also called Silicon Alley, because that's where all the internet startups are. So 100 meters from this Silicon Alley is this place which sounds very ancient. And I was wondering, what is this? Is this a joke? Is this a new cult? Or is it actually a trend? The video store opened in the summer of 2013, roughly at the same time when this guy told us all sorts of unbelievable things, and things we still don't want to believe even now. So what does this man, who now lives in Moscow, and this video store have in common? I had a hypothesis. I had the hypothesis that in the post-Snowden digital world, there was a crack developing. And people understand there's a crack. Digital is not all good. Something is wrong. And they're trying to find their way in this cracked world. They're trying to find a way around these cracks. They are trying to find alternatives. And maybe this video store could be considered one of the alternatives people are trying to find out. So initially, this was just a little idea. And of course, I needed to substantiate it. I'm a Weltverbesserer, so I can't just take a little idea and then go for it. I have to find some basis, some research. So I set off on a journey into digital land. When I talk about digital land, then I have to say that I really feel, I'm not a digital native because I'm too old for this, but I feel like one. So when the iPad came out, I rushed to the States to get one of the first one, took it over to Europe. I was not the one guy who didn't have a smartphone here in the room, was someone else. So I have a smartphone. I'm totally wired. So I started into this world, into this journey, into digital land as someone with a positive mindset. Not like someone from Amnesty International who goes to North Korea to find labor camps. No, I went into digital land like someone who likes Italy and wants to see Rome and Venice and wants to go to the beach and Portofino and so on. So that was my mindset. And if you go to Italy and see all the wonderful things, maybe you also meet the mafia, and maybe you also watch TV and see it's really crap. It is. And maybe you even meet Berlusconi, God forbid. But anyway, so this is just to say, you go with a positive mindset, but there maybe is a dark side. And I wanted to know whether digital land is really indeed this place where humans can live long and prosper. So I found, of course, traveling to Italy, traveling to digital land, I found it is a wonderful land. Everything is beautiful, it's miraculous. You can do things really quickly, everything is better, faster, slimmer, thinner, more efficient, and somehow it's also more and more. I love it. but it also can help to make the world a better place in a really big way, not only in the small ways that, we can Google, we can have Facebook. This is all small things in a way to the big things I find really fascinating with digital. Take climate change. It's people meeting for decades now in wonderful conference room, flying all over the world to try to settle this thing with climate change. They can't do it. But digital can really help us through smart energy and a sharing society. We really could have a hook to solve the problems related to climate change. Similar things to health. We can live much longer and much better. We can solve a lot of issues around road safety, but security in general. And there are so many more ways, and I know them because I'm a Weltverbesserer. So I think there's a lot to digital, and we shouldn't forget them. But digital also has side effects. There's the mass surveillance we know about now since Snowden, where governments try to make us into automated citizens. There's an attempt from corporations to make us into automated consumers. This is a trend. But we are also starting to see that we're spending more and more time with machines, and we're seeing people looking down all the time on their smart devices instead of looking up. We always thought, looking up. I read something recently about tech neck, because we're all looking down. Our neck is getting older and older, so that was only a side thing. But anyway, we're seeing, we're spending more and more time with machines and with smart devices, and we're wondering, does it actually make us happier, or does it just do the opposite? Thinking about side effects, when you have an advertising for a new drug which comes out. I'm talking about a legal drug. Legal drug you can buy in a pharmacy, because the other things are normally not advertised. So there's an advertising, it tells us what it is, and then they say, if you consider, there are also side effects, and if you have side effects, you should call your doctor and a pharmacist. So I thought, if we consider for a moment, just as an experiment, digital as a drug, what would it look like? Could you actually go and buy in a pharmacy? So I made this experiment with myself. I thought, I go into pharmacy, I ask for digital, I get a little box with some pills in it, and the first thing when you do, you open the box, and then you look at it, and something like this comes out. A little leaflet with instructions, or with information for the user. So I thought, what would this kind of leaflet look like if we had one like this for digital? It would tell you all the kind of things, what digital is, how it's produced, what's in there, the kind of ingredients, how to use it best, what doses to use it. Also, normally it says what dose children should use it and what not, when not to use it. For example, if you have a heart failure or something like this, or if you're pregnant, all these sort of things are in this leaflet. And then it says, usually, in some cases very small, but in most cases a very long list of possible side effects. And I thought, what can one find something like this? I was looking, Googling, and doing other things to find this, and I couldn't find one, so I wrote one myself. So I wrote a little leaflet with information for users. It tells us all the wonderful thing about digital, what it can do, what we can expect, the big things and the small things, but it also tells you about the side effects. It tells us about the surveillance by government, that you are not safe anymore, that we're always a see-through citizen, we're a see-through consumer, that you might develop antisocial behavior, that you might that's exactly where it is. You might develop antisocial behavior. You might even become obese, because you don't need to go to the video store anymore, but you're doing everything from home, and you don't need to leave your armchair anymore. But this is a real trend. This is not, I'm not making this up. But you might also, in the worst case, discover that your job can be done by a machine or an algorithm much better and much cheaper than you can do it, and you might lose your job. So this kind of thing is all in this leaflet, unfortunately only in German for the moment, but I'm working on an English version, which is, of course, much more enhanced. It seems to me, after I spent some time writing this leaflet for information, that our society and we individually would do quite well with having such a leaflet. And we should develop one. And we have to understand digital much better, to use it consciously, to make the most of it, but also be conscious of the side effects and keep them in check, tame them. It's a bit like in the Wild West. We're living in the Wild West of digitalization, but we have to tame the Wild West as it was happening in the US at the time of the Wild West. So better knowledge and leaflet and a leaflet like this is important, also in English. But what happens if I decide I have an overdose of digitalization and I personally want to reduce my dependency on digital? Is there a substitute? Is there an alternative? And I think, yes, there is. It's analog. Analog is an alternative, and it could be considered a natural remedy, a Naturheilmittel. So let's go back to my street in Berlin-Mitte. By now you know I'm a big fan of Berlin. I'm a Berliner. Everything seems to be in my street. So 4 doors down the road from my video store, there is this organic health store, also doing great business. And why is this relevant here? You're thinking, this guy is switching from one thing to the other. Now organic comes up. Only because of this street. No, there's something behind. I looked into this and I thought, the organic movement had developed around 100 years ago. And it was an answer to the industrialization of agriculture, which at the time, 100 years ago, was also an idea to make the world a better place. One could produce food much cheaper. One could produce food for the whole world, for all the people living there. One could beat hunger. No one in principle needed to go hungry with this new invention, the industrialization of agriculture. But it also had side effects. It had all sorts of diseases, all sorts of epidemics, like we know, swine flu, SARS, other things. After Chernobyl, people asked, where is actually my food coming from? What's inside my food? Where is the food for the animals coming from, which I'm eating, and so on. People are asking after every crisis, where is my food come? What's in my food? And I say that's the comparison I make to our digitalization. This was a mass production of food, which was possible and made the world a better place. And now we have the mass production of data, which also makes the world a better place in principle. But both have side effects, and for both, a counter movement has developed. The first thing is organic, a counter movement to the industrialization of agriculture, producing locally, producing in season, producing with some kind of animal welfare in mind. I don't want to go into animal welfare because that's really a terrible subject to go into, but it tells you that something is wrong with our industrial production of food. And I tried to find a way to have food with real taste, because we also lost the taste in this whole movement of industrialization of agriculture. So organic food developed. It was a niche. Then, at the time, it was even crazy people producing locally, and they were called crazy. Later, it became a bigger niche, but now it's quite a big niche. And with every new crisis, this niche is becoming bigger and bigger. So it's also big business now. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, multi-billion-euro business too. So it's a growing niche. More and more people want to know what's inside their food. They are not eating everything, and they are willing to pay more for the knowledge that animals are treated properly, that real people from their community are producing this food, and that our agriculture is not additionally polluting this planet. And of course, it has it tastes better. Very importantly, this organic food is not only a niche, but this niche is influencing the mainstream. of agriculture. If it would be just a niche, that would be a nice thing. But this niche is influencing the mainstream. After every crisis, standards which were developed in the organic food movement are switching into the main production of agriculture and making our food safer and better, also industrially produced food. So, what does organic have to do with digital? I explained a little bit with the analog and the digital. My thesis is that in the same way that organic has been a response to the industrial mass production of food, can analog be a response to the digital mass production of data? And in the same way in which organic has influenced the mainstream or standards in the mainstream of food production, so can analog have an influence on the mainstream of digitalization. Maybe just an idea, but as I said, I'm substantiating it. What do I mean by analog? I have a very simple definition, because there are many definitions. I have a simple definition. Take something you do and imagine it without Wi-Fi, without internet. Is this possible? At least one man in this room knows. Yes, it is. And after some adjustment period, you will find that it's fun going analog sometime, that it improves the quality of your life, that it makes you more independent. Thinking, for example, instead of always Googling. Because, whenever you have a question, you Google straight away. You don't even spend 10 seconds to think about it, but start thinking again. It's fun, it's good. Playing cards instead of playing Angry Birds with the whole world. Playing cards with a few friends in a pub, have a beer with it. And maybe writing a letter to a friend rather than a quick online chat. Oops. No. Well, there was a typewriter coming at some point. But anyway, write a letter to a friend instead of an online chat. I did this recently for a friend, and it was her best birthday present. She got probably a really expensive, wonderful thing. I wrote a letter on a typewriter, and it was the best present she ever received. She told me, because usually in a postbox she only gets things from the bank and the insurance company, as we all probably do. So write a letter, it's fun, and you start thinking, because thinking and writing letters normally goes together. Meeting friends for a meal, but also introducing an analog Friday at work. You will be surprised how much you get done doing an analog Friday at work, being not connected to the internet, or having an analog weekend at home. Let's give it a go, think about it. I now have around 360 characters left to tell you one more thing. And I think it's important. I'm digital, I like digital. I don't want to go back to analog, but I think we need both digital and we need analog. Both make us happy in our lives. We have to think about happiness. But I see the danger that we sleepwalk into a digital world which is becoming less and less human. And that's not what I want. To avoid this, we need to understand digital better, how it works, and also what the side effects. And we should preserve some analog alternatives, rediscover them, enjoy them, have fun. And maybe create an analog movement which makes sure that our rules, standards, and laws which we have developed over the centuries don't just disappear in some sort of digital cloud, but that we are using it in developing our digital life. And I'm convinced this new analog movement will influence the digital mainstream of society in a similar way organic has done. Thank you.